You're 22 years old, standing at attention in a military intelligence office in Tokyo, December 1944. The war isn't going well, and everyone knows it, but nobody says it out loud. An officer with tired eyes hands you orders that'll define the rest of your life, though you don't know that yet. Your mission is simple on paper. Head to Lubang Island in the Philippines, conduct guerrilla warfare, and under no circumstances are you allowed to surrender or take your own life. You'll fight until relieved. You nod sharply. This is what you trained for. 3 months later, you're waist-deep in jungle mud watching American forces storm the beach. Your small unit scatters into the mountains. The plan was to sabotage enemy operations, to be a thorn in their side until Japanese reinforcements arrived. But the reinforcements never come. Days turn into weeks. You and your men become ghosts in the green hell of Lubang's interior. The island isn't large, maybe 75 square miles, but the jungle makes it infinite. Vines thick as your arm choke out the sunlight. Every stream could hide a trap. Every rustling leaf might be the enemy. You move at night, sleep in shifts, eat whatever you can scavenge. This is enemy territory now, and trust is a luxury you can't afford. April 1945. You find a leaflet in the mud. It's printed in Japanese claiming the war is over, that Japan surrendered. You read it 3 times. Your hands don't shake because you were trained better than that. This is obviously enemy propaganda, a psychological trick to make you lower your guard. A real surrender order would come through proper military channels, signed by a commanding officer, delivered in person. This flimsy paper is an insult to your intelligence. You burn it and keep moving. Months pass, then years. The jungle becomes your entire world. You know every ridge, every water source, every cave that stays dry during monsoon season. The islanders leave food out sometimes, alongside more leaflets and newspapers showing a peaceful Japan rebuilding under American occupation. Sophisticated propaganda. They're really committing to this charade. Akatsu cracks first. September 1949. One morning, you wake up and he's gone. Deserted. You feel a flash of anger, then pity. The psychological warfare got to him. The mission continues. It's just 3 of you now. In May 1954, you're crossing a river when shots ring out. Shimada goes down. You and Kozuka return fire and retreat into the canopy. You bury him in a shallow grave and mark it with stones only you'll recognize. 2 left. You and Kozuka develop a rhythm that's almost telepathic. He watches your 6, you watch his. You survive a decade together, then another. The world outside keeps changing. You see it in the clothes the islanders wear, the tools they carry. But your world stays frozen in 1945. Every day is the same mission. Survive, resist, wait for orders. The Philippine government sends search parties. You watch them from the ridgeline, see them shouting your names through megaphones, waving Japanese flags. They even bring your family members, or actors who look like them, to call out for you. Your mother's voice, or something close to it, echoes through the valley. For just a second you wonder. But no, an officer gave you an order. Until another officer relieves you, properly and in person, you have a duty. October 1972. You and Kozuka are raiding a rice paddy at dawn. Routine. The shots come from nowhere. Kozuka drops without a sound. 30 years you've been on this island, and now you're alone. Completely alone. The silence is different now. Before it was tactical, strategic. Now it's just empty. You talk to yourself to stay sharp, recite your orders aloud so you don't forget why you're here. You're 50 years old, moving through the same trails you've walked for 3 decades, and for the first time since 1945, doubt creeps in. Not doubt about the mission, never that, but doubt about whether you'll live long enough to see it through. February 1974. You're crouched in your hide when you hear something different. Not the usual search party with their megaphones and fake surrender calls. This is quieter, deliberate. Through the foliage, you spot him. Young guy, Japanese by the look of him, but dressed wrong. Tourist clothes. He's got a camera around his neck, and he's calling your name like he's looking for a friend he lost in a crowd. Norio Suzuki. That's what he calls himself when you finally make contact. He's not military, not government. He's a college dropout who came here on a whim, decided finding you would be a fun adventure. The audacity is almost insulting. 30 years you've been fighting, and this kid treats it like a camping trip. But he's Japanese, really Japanese. You can tell from the way he speaks, the references he makes. He shows you newspapers, color photographs, Nixon resigning, moon landings, Japan as an economic powerhouse. The world he describes sounds like science fiction. You listen, you examine the evidence, and you tell him the same thing you've told every search party for 3 decades. You'll surrender when your commanding officer orders it, not before. Suzuki nods like he expected this answer. He asks who your commanding officer was. Major Taniguchi, you tell him. Suzuki grins. Says he'll bring him here. You don't believe it, but Suzuki leaves and you return to your routine. Patrol. Forage. Wait. March 9th, 1974. Movement on the trail. You sight down your rifle and see Suzuki again, but he's not alone. There's an older man with him. Civilian clothes, but something in the way he carries himself. Military bearing never really leaves you. The man calls out. His voice hits you like a physical force. You know that voice. 30 years dissolved in an instant. Major Taniguchi, your commanding officer, here, actually here. You emerge from the tree line, rifle at port arms, and approach. Taniguchi looks old, worn down by decades you can't imagine. He's reading from a paper, his voice formal and steady. Imperial Army orders, effective immediately. Hostilities have ceased. You are relieved of your duties. You are ordered to cease all combat operations and surrender your weapons. The words wash over you. You stand at attention, every muscle locked. 29 years of loyalty, of following orders, of resisting when everyone else gave up. And now it's over. Just like that. A piece of paper and a tired old man's voice. You want to feel relief, vindication, something. But all you feel is hollow. What do you do with 3 decades of purpose when someone tells you it's finished? March 11th, 1974. You walk out of the jungle in your tattered uniform, homemade repairs holding it together. You carry your rifle, still functional, still clean despite everything. 500 rounds of ammunition. Your sword, hand grenades, decades of war condensed into the gear you can carry. President Marcos is there. Cameras, crowds. They treat it like a celebration. You hand over your rifle to a Filipino officer. It feels wrong, like cutting off a limb. That weapon kept you alive for longer than most marriages last. The crowd applauds. You stand there, ramrod straight, and wonder what the hell you're supposed to do now. You're 52 years old. The world moved on without you. They fly you back to Japan. Tokyo is massive, gleaming, nothing like the bombed-out city you left behind. You land to crowds treating you like a hero, but their faces are strange. They're celebrating something they don't understand. They see dedication and loyalty. They don't see the cost. The friends you buried, the years you can't get back. Your family tries, they really do. But how do you explain 29 years to people who moved on after 5? Your younger brother got married, had kids, built a career. Your parents died waiting for you. Your father passed in 1960, your mother just 2 years before you came home. They never knew you were alive. That knowledge sits in your chest like a stone. The media circus is relentless. Everyone wants a piece of the last soldier. They want the sanitized version, the heroic holdout, the loyal warrior. They don't want the truth about what it costs to hold on to something that long. The people you shot who were just trying to live their lives. the slow erosion of everything except the mission. You try to give them what they want, but the words feel hollow. You're not a hero. You're a man who couldn't let go, and you're not sure anymore if that was strength or just stubbornness. Maybe there's no difference. The government offers you back pay. 30 years of salary adjusted for inflation. It's a fortune. You take it and don't feel anything. Money doesn't buy back time, doesn't resurrect the dead. The nightmares are worse here than they were in the jungle. At least there, hypervigilance made sense. Here, every car backfire sends you diving for cover. Crowds feel like ambushes. The constant noise of the city is psychological warfare you can't shut off. You write a book. Publishers are eager, audience is hungry. You sit down with the pages and realize you don't know how to explain it. How do you make someone understand what it's like to believe something so completely that you build your entire existence around it, only to discover it ended decades ago? The book comes out. People take from it what they want: inspiration, caution, entertainment. None of them were there, so none of them really get it. That's fine. You wrote it because you needed to put the jungle somewhere outside your head. Years pass. The attention fades. You try different things. Raising cattle, teaching survival skills, traveling. Nothing sticks. How do you build a life when your formative years were spent in a state of permanent war? You return to Lubang Island in 1996, 22 years after leaving. The jungle is still there, but it's different, smaller somehow. The places that seemed vast and threatening are just patches of trees. You walk the old paths and they feel like someone else's memories. The islanders remember you. Not fondly, but they remember. You killed 30 people over the years, injured over 100. They were farmers, police, civilians. They weren't your enemy, but you made them into one because the alternative was admitting you were wrong. Some of them forgive you, others don't. You can't blame either group. You fund a school, build a community center, try to give back something to balance the scales. It doesn't balance. Nothing can. But you do it anyway because what else is there? You live to see the new millennium. The world you were born into is completely gone. The empire you served is a democracy. The enemy you fought is an ally. Everything you knew was permanent turned out to be temporary except the consequences of your choices. People still ask if you regret it. The 30 years, the fighting, the refusal to surrender. You tell them no, because that's what they want to hear. The truth is more complicated. You don't regret following orders or staying loyal. You regret that it mattered so much less than you thought, that the grand mission you devoted your life to was already finished while you were still beginning. You die in 2014, 91 years old, natural causes. They call you the last holdout, the final soldier of World War II. History books will remember you as a symbol of loyalty taken to its extreme. But that's not quite right. You weren't loyal to an empire or an ideology. You were loyal to the idea that your suffering meant something, that the sacrifice was for a purpose. Letting go would have meant admitting you wasted the best years of your life on a war that ended before you really started fighting it. So you held on, not because you were brave, but because surrender meant facing that truth.